Hi, and welcome to Asking Canadians' continuing series of Delve In with Asking Canadians. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Amber Bartlett, the VP of Account Management at Asking Canadians. Joining me today is Nick Bond, partner at Emotive Technologies Incorporated. Emotive Technologies is an audience engagement firm helping brands understand the opportunities that exist in building relationships with people that really matter, the customers, the employees, and other key stakeholders. Thanks for joining me today, Nick.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
As part of our 15th anniversary celebrations, we recently reached out to a few of our clients and asked them if they'd like to run some questions across the Asking Canadians panel. Nick jumped at this opportunity to focus his questions on the workplace morale and how COVID-19 has impacted the employee and employer relationship. Nick, is there a reason you've chosen these questions specifically?
There's a lot of reasons why we chose them. They matter a lot. And the hypothesis on our end is that, long after there's a vaccine and people go back to, their lives and hanging out with their families again, the workplace side of it is gonna there's gonna be a long-term impact here. Expectations about what makes a good workplace, I don't think are gonna go back to the way they were. Some of that is because employers have had to treat employees differently and give them some different types of leeway in terms of flexibility, for example. Some of it is because job security is a new risk and a new thing that people haven't really thought about the same way as perhaps they did before. But what happens? There's so many changing variables. All of a sudden, a lot of employees have a lot of personal flexibility where you work and what hours you work. And people have shown, for the most part, that productivity stays high and work efficiency stays high. But when the vaccine comes and everything happens and employers say, okay, time to come back to work, what's going to happen? Will people be willing to give up that flexibility that they've just received? I'm not sure. We do know that there are companies, there's Twitters and Shopify's. Nielsen just came out and said, hey, we're going to do this all the time. You can work from home as much as you want. This is new normal. So what does that do to other consulting firms like, the Gardners and PwCs when they want to force people to come to the office? But Nielsen says, hey, we say work from wherever you want. There's a huge potential competitive advantage. I don't know the extent of that competitive advantage. We have to let that play out. But that's the one element. Then there's the whole team dynamic side of it. There's the commute side of it that people have been able to let go of. But there's also the loss of culture and team and the whole personal side of it that I know a lot of platforms like this one we're on are working to try and get past, but it's not the same. So just the whole employer-employee dynamic, what makes a good employee, what makes a good employer, the answers to those questions, I think, have fundamentally changed. So we want to get ahead of that. And employee engagement, understanding it, it's a growing practice on our business as well. We thought it would be an interesting opportunity to take this a step up from a client-to-client perspective and look at what Canadians in general are looking at. So much appreciate the opportunity to ask these questions and compare it to what we're seeing as well. Very interesting stuff. So yeah, this is only the beginning, though. As much as many people would like to see the pandemic end and just go back to their lives as they were, from an employee standpoint, from a workplace standpoint, it's not going to change. It's not going to go back to the way it was. And it's upon us as both employees and employers to figure out what those changes are, what those expectations are, so we can adapt and be good places to work and be places people want to come to the office in, or if they are coming to the office anymore, right? So who knows?
Excellent. So Nick, what were the key learnings and findings and your takeaways from the questions we asked?
I think there's actually quite a lot to unpack in the very few questions that we asked. The biggest one that jumped out at me was, as an employer, you hope that employees, the people that see under the covers of your organization, that live and breathe the brand day in and day out, that really know the why behind the organization, you hope those are your best advocates. You hope those are the people out there that can tell the story and really pump up the brand and get people excited about what you're doing, and hopefully get other people to work for you as well. And what you find, and what we found here with this, was that only 37% of people said that they were advocates for the brand or would advocate for the brand in that way. Again, given that people spend more than a third of their waking lives either at work or thinking about work, you would hope that they would be closer to it than that. So I think there's a lot of room here to deepen engagement, to deepen those relationships between employers and employees. So that one really kind of popped out at me. It was interesting on the brand side of the equation when we do our Apex score and we look at the different elements. One of the key ones around does the brand put a smile on your face? Does interacting with this brand put a smile on your face? That one was really kind of non-existent pre-COVID. It was pretty low on the importance list, but all of a sudden March hit, April, May, June, everything we've done, this idea of joyfulness and enjoyment and giving me a good feeling about doing what I'm doing has popped. It's always top 3 now in terms of what people are looking for. And what we're seeing here is that, assuming that we're seeing it on some employee work we're doing as well, and we take it to Canadians in general, it was the lowest performing of the elements we tested. We look at a lot more typically in our full study, but of these ones we tested, that was the lowest performing, this idea of joyfulness, this idea that, going to work puts a smile on my face. So how does that going to play out long-term in the employer-employee relationship, knowing that people are really looking for satisfaction at a deeper, more emotional level than perhaps they were before? It's not... The number on the paycheck is fine, but it's not all there is anymore for a lot of people. So I think we need to look beyond that as employers. And obviously that full third of people saying that in their minds, COVID brought out the worst in the culture of their organizations. It was fascinating. We can get into a little bit of why of that in a moment, but this idea of we're all in it together and things like a lot of people aren't feeling that. That's true. Yeah. They're feeling that maybe they're actually not seeing the best of their organizations, or that their organizations are supporting them through what is actually for a lot of people, very traumatizing time going through this. So there's goods. I mean, one of the goods was people generally feel they're treated, like human beings. They're treated with respect at their workplaces. So those things are good. And I think that's a positive. That feels like low-hanging fruit, though, where we start getting to the more nuanced levels of what it means to actually work in a place and feel like it's a long-term proposition that you'd want to advocate for and be a part of for a long time. This is where we start to see some of the numbers start to reveal maybe some opportunities.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the data collection side of things, we don't often see how the data is implemented. Typically, what are the kind of next steps for you and your team, Nick?
Yeah, good question. We're not really a market research company. By focusing on audience engagement, we have a few different methodologies that we focus on. We would take findings like this along with a number of other attributes that we would include. And the first thing we produce typically is our Apex score. What is your engagement score between this particular audience and your particular brand? What does it look like? What are the things you can do to deepen engagement? Engagement being the sort of those attitudes, the feelings and beliefs that drive behavior. So we would produce that. And then for many clients, that's enough. They track this score. That is what they do. And they do that every month or every quarter, whichever. So that we would just sort of monitor that. The next step, though, is many come to us and say, okay, well, what does it look like if we want to become a company that more carefully demonstrates our empathy towards, for example, our employees, or a sense of really understanding them and what they need? Then we would work with them and come up with literally some ideas to do that, and not just a campaign. This isn't a marketing conversation. It usually turns into a conversation with operations people and finance people and people at the front lines of every department of the organization, because the things that we track, things that we were just talking about here, right? Do you treat me like a human being? And is this a good place to come to work? And do I feel taken care of? This isn't one group's job. This is the entire organization's job to figure out how to demonstrate that day in and day out. So that's what it would often turn into for us. So it's usually the score, and then this whole other sort of deeper consultative piece as necessary.
Great. Yes, totally a building block kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So with the end of the year nearing, what is the next step for the team at Emotive Technologies, and what are you guys looking forward to for 2021?
2021 is a big year for us. We're launching an entirely new user experience and platform for our Apex scoring tool. So that's coming out in early January. We're really excited about that to just really help organizations, businesses keep track of what matters most to their core audiences and how are they doing on those things. And then over time, as things happen, as health crises and political situations and social strife, or good things, right? Like we can have good things that happen in the world too. But how are those attitudes adjusting? How does competitive pressure change people's attitudes towards a brand? How do campaigns change people's attitudes towards a brand, or new product launches, et cetera, et cetera? So we're really excited for that to become basically the new way that businesses globally measure and track audience engagement and monitor the success of their businesses. So yeah, we have a great roster of clients already in across North America, and we're looking for that just to really explode in 2021 with some of the new things we're launching. So keep an eye on that one. More broadly, I think for 2021, we're going to see a lot of movement from organizations. We're going to see organizations and companies that perhaps in 2020 were taken aback by all the change we had, between obviously COVID and a lot of social strife and political strife and things going on. It was hard to make decisions. It was hard to move as an organization and move forward. And what we think we're going to see in 2021 is movement coming back into organizations. This idea of saying, hey, we need to regain a momentum. The world is probably not going to settle out. It's not going to all of a sudden become stasis. Things will stay crazy. If it's not something, it's another thing. So how do you react? How do you keep a business healthy and thriving in a world where the only thing certain is uncertainty? So I think that's going to be what business leaders strive for. They're going to hopefully turn to tools like what you provide in the market research side, like what we provide from audience engagement management, looking at the way they're operating, the way they're talking to themselves, the way they're engaging with their audiences, how is that being responded to, and learning, adjusting, moving, learning, adjusting, moving, and just keeping that process going, but not stopping. Stopping is where good organizations and good brand leaders, that's where it all sort of ends for them. You got to keep moving. 2021 is going to give a lot of momentum back to a lot of organizations because it has to. There is no other option for most organizations. So yeah, we're looking forward to this year. I think it's going to be a big one for a lot of us.
It sounds exciting. Looking forward to it, Nick.
I am too.
Nick, it was great talking to you today. Thank you for joining me, and we look forward to supporting you and all your research needs in 2021.
Thank you so much. And again, really appreciate the opportunity to ask a few questions and get some of this out there. I think it sheds a light on what's going on out there for a lot of employers and employees. And it was just nice to be able to have the opportunity to do that with you. So thank you again.
You're welcome. It's always great to connect. Thanks, Nick.
Talk soon.